Good afternoon. Good afternoon, members of the board and public. Is that working, Regina? Pursuant to the board's rules and procedures, our first organizational meeting of the year is called to order by the county administrator. And so I'd like to do that. And then I'll invoke the blessings of heaven and we'll pledge allegiance to the United States and then hold our election of officers. So if everyone could please rise. Let us pray. Our Father which art in heaven, we are so grateful, Father, to be living in a land where we are free to govern ourselves. We are thankful, Father, to live in a place where there are citizens willing to step forward and put in the time and the effort to serve us as a community. We are thankful for their efforts on our behalf and the sacrifices that they make. We're particularly thankful for the sacrifices that our public safety personnel, that the Sheriff's Department, that the military, and so many others offer up on our behalf. We are thankful, Father, for the blessings of our families, our homes, and our work. And we look forward at the conclusion of this very difficult year for more blessings from Thee, and to look forward to the good things that there are to be had and how that we might work together. We ask Thee now to bless us as we go forward with this meeting, that Thou might lend wisdom and insight and discernment to our elected officials. And we offer this prayer up as we've been commanded in the name of Thy Son. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome, everyone. Ms. Tucker's term of service has ended, and it is time to elect her replacement. Thank you, Ms. Tucker, for your service. The floor is now open for nominations.
I will nominate Ms. Jennifer Moore as chair.
Is there a second?
So moved.
Pursuant to our rules, we work through each nomination one at a time before we accept additional nominations. So having a motion and second for Ms. Moore to serve as chair, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Madam Chair, I return the gavel to you.
Thank you, Board. Appreciate it. Hope that I can serve you and everybody well this year in this capacity. So do we need to nominate a vice chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Mr. David Pugh for vice chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So at this time, there's a second on the floor. All in favor of Mr. Pugh being vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Pugh.
Thank you, thank you. Hopefully you'll be here every meeting.
Next, do we have to do treasurer and secretary for the board of supervisors or no?
I don't believe so. The secretary is the clerk, and the treasurer serves as our treasurer.
Okay. So we're moving on to appointment of liaisons.
No, ma'am. Please address the meeting schedule. Item C.
Hold on.
B is
No.
appointment of liaisons.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Liaisons is next.
Don't shoot me my first name. Okay. Is there any discussion on the liaisons? Everybody okay with your role? Everybody's good? Looking for a motion.
But Ms. Moore, just a caveat, on the PDC Local Government Council that I took over, I can serve as long as the meetings continue to be virtual. If they're in person, I'll have a problem.
So I guess if there is a problem, you'll come back and let us know.
Yes, I will.
All right, well, I'll move that the board adopt the appointments as agreed.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Pugh. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, team. All right, meeting schedule. So we currently meet the first and third Tuesdays of each month. First meeting is at 3 p.m. and the second meeting is at 7 p.m. Is there any changes proposed to the meeting schedule?
And Madam Chair, I move that the board continue its meeting schedule as currently stated.
There is a motion on the floor by Mr. Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and now we're moving on to the adoption of the rules of procedure. Is there any discussion on the rules?
Madam Chair, if I may, I did propose an addition to the rules to deal with correspondence from citizens, if the board wants to take that up or not.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we adopt the rules of procedure for 2021 as proposed.
And that includes these letters from citizens.
I think we need to edit them if we want to include the 3 minutes for written documentation and us.
Well, I didn't have time to get it in the package because it all happened after the package was published, but the rule that I'm suggesting that you add is under 3-4 of your rules of procedures. It would go a new section D, and it would say members of the public wishing to offer comment to the board but are unable to attend the meeting may send correspondence to the county administrator to be read out loud during the public comment portion of the meeting. If a time limit has been placed on other speakers, it will also be applied to the reading of the correspondence.
Well, I'll make the motion that we include the verbiage that you just, that you have for our procedures this year. So that would apply to anyone that writes a letter would have to stay within the 3-minute parameter.
If the 3 minutes is established, because sometimes we don't do that because there's just not that many.
If there's a lot of speakers, we do.
Yes, sir.
So I'll go ahead and propose that.
All right, there is a motion on the floor by Mr. Pugh. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we'll have that edited and.
Yes, ma'am. So we'll add that section, and our rules are posted on the Board of Supervisors webpage on the county website. So they're right on top, so everyone can see them.
Perfect. All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda. So on the agenda that was published, we have the edits that were necessary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So what you have before you is my understanding of the complete agenda.
So we don't need to make any amendments. We're good to.
I'm not aware of any, no, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
All right, motion on the floor by Mr. Tucker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, at this time, we will open the floor for citizen comments. Looks like we have one. Gloria Witt.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
My name's Gloria Witt. I'm at 123 Aaron Drive, Madison Heights, Virginia. And I'm here on behalf of NAACP members and friends. I wanted to follow up and share what happened after the December 21st meeting when we were dealing with COVID and the First Amendment sanctuary resolution. We left that meeting and we actually wanted to kind of raise community awareness about the conversation that was happening. So we created a petition, of which many of you probably have been aware of. So we did that to raise awareness. I'm here today to once again verbally say that the NAACP members and friends oppose any resolution or letter from the Board of Supervisors regarding this First Amendment sanctuary resolution. And as a result of the petition, we ended up with 370 plus signatures, of which about 50% of those signatures were Amherst County residents. So I wanted to share just a little bit about what the citizens who signed that petition actually signed up for. And it said, those who signed this petition oppose the adoption of a resolution that would make Amherst County a First Amendment sanctuary county. We believe that this is not a political issue, but a health issue. We believe that no individual's right is more important than another's. We believe that Governor Ralph Northam has the authority to issue executive orders to protect the health and safety of all our citizens. We believe that Governor Northam, as a Director of Emergency Management, may take actions relating to the safety and welfare of the Commonwealth per the code. We believe that the State Health Commission has the authority to implement emergency measures to deal with dangers to the public health and life per the code. We believe that wearing a face mask, washing your hands, and social distancing, all simple and doable measures proposed by both CDC and the World Health Organization, can prevent further spread of COVID-19. Further, we agree that the measures proposed by Governor Northam have not denied citizens their rights to freely exercise their religion, to peacefully assemble, or to freely engage in commerce, to move absolutely freely, or any other individual liberty. Finally, we believe that the Governor Northam is acting to save all our lives and not take away anyone's individual rights. So that's what these citizens signed up for. We are here today because we know a decision needs to be made by January 19th, and we do not want you to move forward without understanding just how much we oppose any type of response to that First Amendment resolution. And that is anchored in historical evidence that you can table some issues because you have done it in the past. And we're asking you not to do anything, because to do anything would send a signal that you support what we consider crazy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. Are there any other citizens here wishing to speak? Seeing here, no, we'll close that. Oh, you want to speak? Okay.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I do have a letter of correspondence here from Beverly Jones at 682 Amelon Road in Madison Heights. She asked that I read this in the public comment section of the meeting. She says, I am in strong agreement with Governor Ralph Northam's COVID-19 restrictions. Why is a small partisan group called the Virginia Constitutional Conservatives be allowed to present resolutions before local county boards to sow dissension and distrust of the efforts of Governor Northam to help stop the spread of COVID-19? The VCC is a political PAC. Disinformation and misinformation that they circulate to promote their agenda should not be Amherst County's agenda. Why should we allow them to dictate what our Board of Supervisors do to support their agenda? Look back to the year 1905 as smallpox ravaged the state of Massachusetts. More than 115 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that individual rights and liberties did not replace a state's responsibility to protect its citizens and put an end to a disease during emergency situations. Look back also to the year 1950, as polio spread throughout Virginia, especially in Wytheville, Virginia, where individuals were asked to wash their hands before eating and after going to the toilet, keep away from crowds and places of public attendance. I was infected with polio. I am a polio survivor, and I want to survive COVID-19 too. I urge you to dismiss any resolution to dismantle the executive orders of Governor Northam to stop the spread of COVID-19. Only we can stop the spread by following the guidelines stated by Governor Northam and the Virginia Department of Health. Because suppressing the spread of COVID-19 saves lives, Amherst County lives. And in parentheses, she says there are 1,424 cases, 41 hospitalizations, and 10 deaths. Thank you in advance for your support in this matter. Beverly Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Does Now we will close citizen comments and move on to the ordinance of the first reading. And I think, Mr. Popovich, you got this one?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. As we discussed at your prior meeting, the State and Local Government Conflict of Interest Act requires certain personal financial disclosure information to be made by members of the board. There are also provisions contained in that particular statute that allows the board to impose the same requirement upon people of trust, as they say. In normal practice, what you have had done here in Amherst is have the county administrator, the director of the authority, and non-elected members of the authority file similar forms, but you never actually adopted an ordinance as is required by the statute. So what this does is simply solidify in place what you've already been doing, but it just follows the statutory requirement of adopting ordinance.
Board, any discussion?
Madam Chair, I move that the board adopt ordinance 2021-0001 as presented.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Martin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Moving on to the consent agenda. I did see one spelling error in the minutes. I don't know if you had that corrected.
Yes, ma'am, that has been corrected. Thank you for spotting.
Sure thing. Board, what's your pleasure on the consent agenda?
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
All right, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Pugh. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to new business. We have the VDOT 6-year road plan. Mr. Brown.
Hey.
Welcome.
How's everybody?
Good.
Good to be back in y'all's presence again. It's been a while. I'm sure I'd like to present this. This is our FY21, basically secondary road construction budget. And this is kind of a mute issue because much of what's in of these projects have been built, and we're kind of just, this is more of a formality more than anything else. And it was asked to get these approved back toward the end of November and to finalize as part of finalizing the state 6-year plan. So that's really why we're here. It's more of a formality. There isn't anything in this plan that wasn't approved previously, with the exception of one change, and that is a countywide drainage item. We have countywide items that we use for different purposes throughout the year, and this one was added for drainage to allow state forces to use some county VDOT money to work on certain drainage items. This probably around March, we'll get together and start working on revising the new plan for FY22. But just to, if you'd like a little update of where we're at, we completed Beck Creek this past year. We completed Muddy Branch. We completed Weir's Gap. And we have Lavender Lane that's under construction. Campbell's Mountain, part of that has been completed. It's a little bit left to be constructed. And looking at this calendar year, we're looking at constructing East Perch, Foxhall, and possibly Shady Mountain Road. Those will be our 3 projects that can be constructed this year. So with that said, I don't know a whole lot else to add about it. Again, it's more of a formality than anything else. And we will be hopefully revising the plan started in March with updating our priority list and getting all of you all's constituents requests for that their roads be paved. We'll go through that whole process early this spring. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that anyone has if you have any.
So earlier this spring, there'll be a process to get additional roads added in. for future consideration.
Yes, we will actually have our public hearing, receive public comments for the new 6-year plan, which would be FY 22 through, I guess, 27.
Could you just make a note to look at Getty's Mountain?
Ms. Hunter?
And since you're making notes, make a note to look at the upper end of Indian Creek Road, and I'll make a formal request in March. Does it help you make the case if citizens that live on these roads have a petition, or does that?
It doesn't, it really doesn't matter, Ms. Tucker. I mean, we had that on the list. I think that request was made a while back. I mean, as long as you're presenting it, because basically, you know, the board sets priority. So however you all want that to fall into the future plan, you know, we'll be fine, you know, it's fine with us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for him?
Madam Chair, if I might just remind the board, if you want any rural rustic roads added at any time during the year, if you would just let the Director of Community Development know, he maintains the list. So that when this thing comes forward, all the roads that have been proposed come forward at the same time for you all to prioritize. So you don't have to wait till VDOT comes. We keep that ready for you for when they're ready to receive it. Thank you, ma'am.
So, Madam Chair, so we still, it says there's supposed to be a public hearing January 19th on this list. Is that right?
It's my understanding, you asked for a public hearing
Yes.
on this current plan.
Yes,
And then later on, we'll start the whole cycle
we'll
over.
start the whole process again.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Or what's your pleasure?
I move that the board direct staff to schedule the public hearing on the projects list for January 19th, 2021.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Pugh. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Well, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Okay.
We'll see you at the public hearing.
Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Happy New Year.
So, decision by right site plan. Welcome, Jeremy. Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year. Good afternoon. At the November 17th board meeting, staff was asked to give an opinion on whether or not site plans should be approved by planning commission or staff. The Virginia code does allow site plans and plats to be approved by the planning commission or the agent. The agent comes to the staff. The current Amherst County zoning ordinance does require that both minor and major site plans proceed through the development review committee, which are folks like VDOT, public safety, the service authority, community development. We also involve agencies like ADP, Comcast, and Verizon as part of the development review committee, and our building official, and then proceed to the planning commission. This process can be modified, however, a change to the zoning ordinance is required. Staff does recommend that all site plans continue review through the DRC process, but in an effort to streamline the process, all by right site plans be approved by staff and no longer require planning commission approval. We took that to the planning commission at their December meeting. They agreed to no longer require by right site plans. And again, by right site plans are those that are permitted, not special exception site plans or site plans that you would see as part of the public hearing process. This vote was a 4-2 vote to proceed. So the recommended motion is that the board accept the planning commission's recommendation by directing staff to draft an ordinance and schedule a public hearing to make the recommended modifications. Do you have any questions for staff?
Or any questions? Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, I'll start, because I'm the board member that requested this. It was somewhat odd to me that our planning commission was having to approve by right plans and plats. These are things that, in my career and experience, have been purely ministerial processes. The development standards are set in the ordinances, which county pay staff are more than competent to determine whether or not the code is being met. And I think in an effort to be more business friendly and streamline the process, it just makes sense to have staff be able to approve it. This came to my attention for someone that was trying to construct a building out in the Amherst Industrial Park and was running, not in a lot of delays, but it was another delay in the process. So I move that the board accept the planning commission's recommendation, but directing staff to draft an ordinance and schedule public hearings to make the recommended modifications.
Madam Chair, before we take a vote, can I just ask a question? Sure. What was the basis of the opposition for the 2 votes against?
I think generally the planning commission feels that site plans allow them to be part of the process to some extent. That's both helpful and problematic. We have to often, as staff, we have to remind the planning commission that a by right site plan is just that. If the regulations and the codes are met and everything's done properly, that they need to approve them. However, it does give them an opportunity to be part of the process. They see what the ordinance allows, right? So you see when landscaping or signage or entrances or setbacks, when all that's met, you get a chance to see that. So the planning commission, I think, felt like they are not been part of the process as much to that extent.
Thank you.
So there is a motion on the floor by Mr. Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Moving on to employee bonuses.
Yes, Madam Chair, this topic was also proposed by Mr. Martin. As you all recall, through the State Compensation Board, sheriff's deputies were given a $500 end-of-year bonus. The county had to contribute about $7,000 to that to cover the positions that are not funded by the state, that are funded by the county, and we did that. Mr. Martin asked what it would cost to give that same bonus to our public safety employees, and that cost would be $15,610. If you added our DSS staff, that'd be an additional $20,000, and if you did the same bonus for the rest of county staff, that would be a total of $59,746, for a total of $96,356. We don't have any recommended motion here. We're just providing information and setting up the forum for your discussion.
Does that include the dispatchers?
Yes, sir. They are included within public safety.
Yeah, I did ask for this. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I think they were just confirming.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for Stacy to make sure that she had included that, and she had, yeah, so they are.
I asked for this in response to the bonus that was given to our deputies. We did have to go into the general fund to help fund the bonuses for those that aren't funded by the state. I want to commend especially our public safety personnel for the amount of work that they have done over the past year dealing with the COVID-19 issues, and that they are continuing to deal with on a very much more frequent basis. And I think all of our county staff has actually done extraordinary work to keep the county government moving forward. I also think it's important to let our staff know that they are appreciated. I think this would just be a small token of the way for the board to do that. I think we have available funding in our general fund. It wouldn't be that large of an impact to do this on a one-time basis. So, I would move that we provide the one-time bonus.
Is that a motion on the floor or further discussion?
No. I want a point of clarification, please. Mr. Martin, your proposal includes all staff?
Correct.
Public safety, DSS, and county staff?
Correct.
Okay.
Ready for the motion to be on the floor?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'd like to discuss this, or at least make my opinion felt. Yes, it is true. We've all been through this. There, of course, EMTs, sheriff's deputies, the person down the food line every day that's checking people out is going through the same thing as well. I thought that this spring, during the budget, we took care of our employees very well. I mean, very well. Our EMTs at that time and our sheriff's deputies were the highest paid, I believe, in the area.
We also gave a 3% bonus on top of that. I think we've done a tremendous job of signifying our support for our employees. And this just came through from the state of Virginia, giving an employee raise to the sheriff's deputies. And we had to spend $7,000, yes, out of our own pockets. But I feel before that, we had already shown a tremendous amount of respect in what we had did for them previously. And I don't support pulling $59,000 out of the general fund at this time to do that. It's not because the work that they do is not important. It is. We all know that. It's a simple fact that I think we've already taken care of our employees.
So Mr. Pugh, are you saying remove the county staff, because you said 59,000, you're talking about the 96,000?
Oh, the 96,000, yes.
Any further discussion? Well, I will say I tend to agree with Mr. Pugh. I think that our employees, or at least that I would hope that our employees feel that we appreciate them by us looking at their compensation this past year. And my heart, yes, I want to give all employees bonuses and that type of thing. But in this case, I think that the $100,000 should go toward tools and equipment to make their job easier. That's just my viewpoint. I hope employees know that I personally appreciate all that they are doing, and that's the reason that we were able to give those raises. Well, not just me, but we were able to do those raises this year because the board appreciates the work that each of the employees are putting in. Any further discussion?
No, I think I put a motion on the floor.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Pugh. All in favor?
Mr. Martin.
I'm sorry, Mr. Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Roll call.
Okay, roll call. Mrs. Tucker? Mr. Ayers? Mr. Martin? Mr. Pugh?
Nay.
Myself? Nay.
Just for my apologies, I will put my muzzle back on.
That's fine. I appreciate your guidance. Moving on to the county administrator's report.
Yes, Madam Chair. The first item is Amherst County Regulation, reissuing Regulation 7, our purchasing manual, to update it with state law. We are raising some of the minimum purchase levels for various items. The degree of evidence and competition you have to have for each, so we're making that comport with state law. And also we're fulfilling a requirement whereby we have included selection criteria. When we are selecting between two contractors we already have on contract, like when we have multiple engineering firms and we give them a job or we ask them each for proposal, we put in the criteria as to how we will select based in choosing between existing contractors. So those are the only changes, and we'll reissue it with the same number but a new date. And while I have these regulations are my regulations to the staff, I present them to the board in case you spot some policy issue of concern or there is some other issue that you would like to reject the changes or otherwise implement other policy. So I seek your acknowledgement and your approval before I issue that.
Or any discussion? What's your pleasure?
Madam Chair, I move that the board endorse Amherst County Regulations 7 first and manual as presented.
There is a motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to your project status report.
Yes, ma'am. This is for the board's information. Several of the items have been updated. And all projects continue to move forward unless anybody has any specific questions. With regard to the Riverview Convenience Center, I want to report that the Planning Commission has reviewed that proposal proposal to use the old landfill site on Riverview Road as a convenience center. And they have recommended against that. And many citizens came and spoke against the idea, and several of them proposed that we simply move the site further down the road. So I have been engaged in speaking with property owners in that area, but further down the road, and it'll be another week or so before they're ready to give me numbers, values that they would be willing to sell their property to do that. So at this point, that issue, that site is in limbo until I can come back to the board and offer you some alternatives. You may want to go forward with the Riverview site as we've been planning, because we already own that property. You may want to purchase another property, or you may just simply want to not build it at all and wait to see how our current projects pan out in terms of use by the citizenry. We're under no deadline to resolve this, and until the board provides direction, we can sit on this.
Indefinitely, I believe, Jeremy.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question? Madam Chair. So, this is the engineering design contractor that's been selected, but we're not under contract with them to do any work.
That is correct. We've stopped that work from going forward until we figure out what you all want to do. But yes, we've selected them. We know who we're going to use, but we haven't given them any work to do yet.
Madam Chair, if I may, I will schedule it under liaison and committee report, but basically the two items that were discussed under that are being discussed now previously. There was overwhelming opposition to the site. I didn't hear they wanted to move it further down the road. I heard they don't want it on that road, is what I heard. People were very concerned about that. It was a packed crowd. I mean, there wasn't a seat empty in the whole place. You know, I don't hear a lot of people calling me saying we need another place in Madison Heights. This whole area is served by county waste currently. You have the landfill, which is about 12 minutes away. You have Coolwell, which is about the same distance away. You do have options available, although it may be a little longer than some than others. I don't see how we can move forward with such public opposition. I mean, maybe you all are willing to accept that. It was overwhelming against.
Unless anybody has questions on any other items, that's all I have on that report. I would like to remind you two that we have the lockbox for the personnel records that are managed by the board in place. We have the fireproof box, and we have it inside another box that's locked. And so it's a matter of using the safe deposit key at BB&T Bank and bringing those files over, and then we can give you the keys to that box. So we're ready to receive personnel records. That's really a matter of very, very old business, but now that we have a change in leadership, I want you all to know that we're ready to receive the records.
I mean, Mr. Rogers, so everything is still over at the bank?
Yes, sir. To my knowledge, there's certainly nothing in our lockbox.
Okay, so.
We're still paying for that lockbox.
Well, I don't even know what the key is.
I have them.
Okay, so Jennifer and I need to get together one day and move the stuff over to here, is what you're saying.
So maybe after this meeting, if you come down to my office, I can each give you a key. That would work. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. County Attorney report?
The annual fun stuff, the annual Freedom of Information Act training, as well as Conflicts of Interest Act training. I know you all have probably gone through any number of iterations of this training over time. So I don't want to belabor the issue unless there are some specific questions from any of you specifically. But from a general perspective, Freedom of Information Act specifically relates to the public's ability to obtain official records of the county. The whole idea is to ensure that citizens have access to what their government is doing. Now, there are obviously exceptions to that, as you all are very well aware of, with regards to your ability to go in a closed meeting and discuss certain items, legal issues, contract negotiations, and that type of thing. But generally speaking, the Freedom of Information Act here in Virginia is to be read very much in favor of disclosure. The whole idea is to ensure that there's kind of an open government approach. So having said that, citizens are provided the opportunity to request those records within certain guidelines. The most important of which is all they have to do is ask for it. There really is no requirement that something be in writing or be presented formally. If somebody specifically just asks you directly, that is considered a FOIA request. So the big thing to take away from any of these kind of FOIA trainings is that if somebody asks you for a public document, simply relay that request over to your FOIA officer here at the county, and we will then take care of it from there. Just don't get yourself caught up in a situation where you don't believe that it was a formal request because it wasn't in writing.
Mark, if I might
Yes, sir.
interject, our FOIA officer is Rachel Carton. So if you get a request, just let her know. She tracks them all, make sure they all get finished.
Now that's what's important is when you receive the request, the county has 5 days to respond. Now that's not necessarily saying it's 5 days to give the document over, it's simply 5 days to respond. So specifically, the one thing that you have to remember is the countdown for that 5 days, it's 5 business days, starts the day after the request. Okay? So theoretically, if you want to think about it in 6 days, you can, but it's 5 days starting the day after. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to miss that deadline, because that is usually the basis for every FOIA lawsuit that's ever come down the pike, is that you fail to respond in a timely, appropriate manner. So having said all of that, there really isn't much else that you need to know about it other than it's just access to records. Now, we all know that sometimes requests can be a little burdensome. Sometimes they can be a little broad. Sometimes they can be just, in some people's opinion, harassing requests. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We still have to respond to the requests. So unless anybody has any questions about that, I'm going to skip on to the other provisions, and that relates to your public meetings. What we're doing here today, how we hold these meetings, how we provide notice of meetings, it's all incorporated in the Freedom of Information Act. Now your staff pretty much covers all of that, so you really don't need to worry about it so much. The county administrator and I generally are the ones that are going to make sure that all of these boxes are ticked so that your meetings are lawful. But other than that, that's all I'm going to say about Freedom of Information.
Does this count as our training?
Yep,
Okay.
check.
Perfect.
Conflicts of Interest Act. Now, having said that, this is a behemoth of a statute. It is quite conceivably one of the most complex and hardest to understand. What I want to impart to you, however, is basically the fact that this particular statute is in place to ensure that you as elected members are not unduly influencing a particular transaction or operation of government. And the reason that that is incorporated into there is to ensure that if you do try to influence the outcome, you can be held criminally liable. And so it's very important to keep in mind
that if you have any type of personal interest or personal relationship with somebody who's trying to have a business interaction with the county, you need to really take a step back and think about all the possible ramifications that that may have. Now, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're going to remember every single thing out of the statute, because I can't even remember everything out of the statute, okay? So my biggest recommendation to you is, if there is ever a situation where you feel kind of uncomfortable about a particular transaction or something that is coming in front of you to be addressed, that you contact the county administrator, contact me. You could even contact Commonwealth Attorney's Office to ask a question. Now, the quote unquote get out of jail free card in those situations is if you ask for a formal opinion from the Commonwealth Attorney or from the Ethics Council in Richmond. They will give you a written response as to whether or not you would be in violation of the Conflict of Interest Act. And if they say that you would not be in violation, people can try and sue you all they want, but you hold that up as Exhibit A in the suit, and it gets thrown out, because that's kind of your shield, okay? It's important to recognize that really the most important thing of the Conflict of Interest Act are all the definitions. Now, again, this is dense, okay? It was really dense stuff, and I don't want to drag you all into it. But when you start going through that particular statute, these words become very important, but they also make it that much more confusing when you're reading it. So that's why I strongly recommend to you that you get guidance from legal counsel if you have any question about any of this. What I really want to focus you on is the general prohibited conduct provisions. That's talking about accepting money. Obviously, we're all honest people. We know that if you're accepting money to essentially pay you to vote a certain way, that's dishonest. We know that. But it has to be put into a statute, right? Just so everyone can say, I know what the rules are. So these things are very basic, and if you're to ask me, the basic point of all of this and bottom line is that if it makes your gut feel a little queasy, it probably is a bad thing, and you need to check yourself. Check with legal counsel, make sure you're not in violation. But that's really all I wanted to say about conflicts of interest, because again, dense stuff, and we could talk about this for hours. It is very, very confusing, and it takes a lot of time to go through and kind of parse out all the meanings of all the different exceptions and requirements and restrictions. But just remember, if your gut is telling you something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right, and then you may need to recuse yourself from the activity. Okay? If anybody's got any other questions, free to answer them. If not, congratulations, you got your training for this year.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. That was the easiest training. All right, we have liaison and committee reports. Mr. Pugh, do you have anything else to add?
No, we just had a minor site plan review, and there was some, I can't remember, there's something to come up for Solar America, solar power, and it slipped my mind exactly what it was, but it came up before the planning commission again. I don't see Mr. Brown here, but it will be before us, I assume, at our next meeting. Maybe there are some major site plan changes. I wish Mr. Brown was in here because,
Would you like me to get back?
we can just talk to you. If anybody's got any questions, just ask him, and he can run it through you. I don't belabor the point anymore, but other than that, I guess we already took care of everything.
Thank you. We will now open the floor back up for citizen comments. Is there anyone here wishing to speak? All right, well, we'll close citizen comments and open it up to matters from the board of supervisors. Okay.
Don't have anything.
Mr. Ayers? Mr. Martin? Mr. Pugh? I I don't have anything. Ms. Tucker, you ready to move us into closed session?
Think so. I move that the Amherst County Board of Supervisors convene in closed session pursuant to 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia 1950, as amended to evaluate the performance of the county administrator, and a closed session pursuant to 2.2-3711A3 of the Code of Virginia 1950 is amended for the purpose of discussion and consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, or if the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically relating to an agricultural center site in District 1.
Is that motion on the floor, will we vote on it?
That is my motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Ms. Tucker, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Ms. Tucker,
Okay, I think we made this story good.
Are we ready? Madam Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion that the Amherst County
And
Board.
we need to come out of closed session before we certify the closed session. So we need to move to come out of
That's
closed
what I was
session.
trying to read.
I'm sorry. I thought you were certifying.
No.
Forgive me.
I mean that the Amherst County Board of Supervisors come out of closed session.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move that the Amherst County Board of Supervisors certify by recorded vote that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorizing the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in closed session.
And this is by roll call vote.
Yes, all good, yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Tucker,
Aye.
Mr. Ayers, Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Pugh.
Aye.
How do I say myself? Myself? Aye. And now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So, I think that.
Motion on the floor to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Good first meeting, Madam Chair.